Mr. Men, Little Miss, Sharing, a book about the joy of sharing. This is a story about sharing. Little Miss Sunshine loves to share. When she has baked a cake, she can think of nothing nicer than sharing it with her friends. Do you like to share? Sharing means that you get to enjoy something with another person, whether it's a delicious treat, a fun game, or a silly story. Mr. Funny likes to share things that bring him joy, particularly jokes, silly hats, and rides in his shoe car with his friend Mr. Nonsense. What do you share with others? Sometimes it can be difficult to share, especially if it's sharing one of your favorite things. Little Miss Tiny has a much-loved teddy that she cuddles. It helps her feel calmer when she's worried. Her friends understand that it's very special to her and wouldn't ask her to share it. But some people don't like sharing anything, even things that aren't special to them or things that others offer to share with them. People like Mr. Grumpy and Little Miss Stubborn. Their names may give you a bit of a clue as to why. Mr. Grumpy is grumpy by name and grumpy by nature. When he's traveling on the bus, he likes to have a whole seat to himself. In fact, he will be deliberately grumpy in hope that no one asks to sit next to him. And if they do, he will refuse to share his seat. Isn't that a selfish way to behave? Now Little Miss Stubborn will also refuse to share, even if it's not something of her own. When it was raining at the bus stop, and Mr. Cool offered to share his umbrella with her, Little Miss Stubborn refused. It wasn't because she enjoys being out in the rain. It was because she was just too stubborn to share. Have you ever not wanted to share something? Mr. Grumpy and Little Miss Stubborn have a thing or two to learn about sharing. So when Little Miss Sunshine and Mr. Cool decided to have a picnic and some games at the park, they hoped Mr. Grumpy and Little Miss Stubborn would join in. When we share with others, it shows we've considered their feelings and that we care about them, said Little Miss Sunshine. Hopefully they will see that sharing makes us all happier. And it's also fun to share, replied Mr. Cool, particularly when you play games. What's your favorite game to share? The picnic began with Little Miss Sunshine laying out a blanket on the grass and opening her picnic hamper. Help yourselves, she smiled. There's enough for everyone. But Little Miss Sunshine wasn't the only one who had brought food or a blanket to sit on. There was lots of delicious food to share. Mr. Greedy had even brought a 3-course banquet with cheese and crackers to finish. What foods do you like sharing? Now Mr. Grumpy definitely doesn't like sharing his food or his blanket. He was sat right at the edge of the picnic, grumpily eating his sandwich to make it clear he wasn't joining in, while Little Miss Stubborn stubbornly refused every morsel of food she was offered. Even when Little Miss Magic offered to magic up whatever she wished to eat, who wouldn't want to try that? There are some things you may not want to share, like Mr. Silly's Nonsense Land surprise, a surprising combination of sausages and custard, which only he likes. But Little Miss Sunshine was disappointed that neither Mr. Grumpy or Little Miss Stubborn had tried to join in. I really hoped they'd enjoy sharing a picnic with us, she said sadly to Mr. Cool. Hopefully the games will make them realize how fun being part of a team can be, replied Mr. Cool. It was now time for the games to begin. We're going to start with a 3-legged race, cried Mr. Cool, which means you'll each be attached to another person and will need to work together to cross the finish line. There was lots of excited chatter, but Mr. Grumpy was looking distinctly grumpy, and Little Miss Stubborn had her arms crossed in refusal. After some gentle persuasion, they agreed to join in, but Mr. Cool wisely paired them with other people. At first, Mr. Grumpy resisted Little Miss Fun's enthusiasm, but soon he was striding across the grass with her, grumpily admitting that it was actually quite funny trying to walk together. Mr. Tickle and Little Miss Stubborn also made an interesting pairing. You couldn't quite tell if Little Miss Stubborn was moving so fast because she was being tickled, but as they made it across the line, she had a smile on her face. Little Miss Sunshine smiled too. If Mr. Grumpy and Little Miss Stubborn could see that sharing was fun, it would encourage them to do it more often. I just hope there aren't any more games where I need to be attached to someone, exclaimed Mr. Grumpy. The next game is football, replied Mr. Cool. You still need to work together as a team, and I'd like you and Little Miss Stubborn to be the team captains. Do you think the captains will be able to share the ball with their teams? Unfortunately, The match started with them both trying to keep hold of the ball, but Mr. Grumpy soon realized that Little Miss Summersault was his best player, and if he passed the ball to her, his team were more likely to score. Little Miss Stubborn realized she quite liked her team scoring goals too, and because she passed the ball to her teammates, especially super striker Mr. Cool, the game ended in a draw. "That was fun," said Little Miss Stubborn in a surprising moment of enthusiasm. "Yes, I feel really tired and thirsty now," replied Mr. Grumpy. "Let's take a break before we play frisbee and rounders," said Mr. Cool. "Would anyone like a slice of orange?" asked Mr. Grumpy, with which Little Miss Sunshine smiled as she looked at the friends sharing their food. Even Little Miss Stubborn took a slice of orange and poured some of her water into everyone's cup. "It's been fun to share the day with you all," she said happily. "Three cheers for sharing," said Little Miss Sunshine. "Sausages!" cheered Mr. Silly, who may have misheard.